Thank you so much for the opportunity to share a little bit about Mendon High School and what's going on there. I want to have us spend most of our time with the people who do the real work at Mendon High School, our teachers, really being the ones that are going to share with you something we're very proud of, but I want to just share quickly how this fits into the bigger picture of Mendon High School and our current comprehensive action plan. We have adopted the district mission, as you can see, with a little of a Mendon twist to the beginning of it, but ultimately the focus of our ILT is certainly the continuing evolution of a professional learning community culture in our school. And part of what that means for us is something that we really started focusing on carefully this summer in a summer workshop in which we were thinking about the kind of the critical aspects, the focus areas that are necessary for a professional learning community to really truly do what we always have wanted to do as well in RTI, response to intervention, and that is to be able to respond to the need of every single individual student. And those critical focus points include collective responsibility, that shared responsibility by every person, every adult in that building for every single child, not just the kids that are on my list, but every single child. And that means there's a structure and systems as well. It's about concentrated instruction. Concentrated instruction starts with really getting down to the essentials. What is it that every child needs to know? Convergent assessment, that's about making sure that as we go through that path, there's consistent, constant, regular assessment, common assessment, assessment that's reviewed in collaborative teams to ensure that students are in fact learning these critical and important essential skills. And then finally, certain access, every child having access to learning at high levels on those essential learnings that must really be held by every student. So that's our focus, and I think that as you listen to our teachers share about this one of many collaborative activities, but this is a very significant one for us, I think you'll hear aspects of all of those things. The PLC is not just about the PLC teacher teams. It's about the whole picture and all of those four components. So I hand it off to the real workers.
Hey, good evening. My name is Bethany Patterson, and I am a Global 9 history teacher at Mendon High School. So I'm here to talk a little bit about how this came to be. Jude Dietz and I worked together on research in Common Core back with Elizabeth Hollinger a couple years ago. And in talking about research, we realized that we had gaps in what we were doing. I was expecting my students to know skills that they hadn't been taught yet in English. And English teachers were trying to kind of helping us out in our research projects. Anyways, we realized that we needed to start to work together. And that's when Jude came to me in talking about PLC and the school environment. What can we do? Can we get all of Global 9 teachers and English 9 teachers together to come up with a research project that all freshmen would have to be a part of? So that is really kind of how this came to be. And since then, English has been working and social studies is about to start working, as Jude will explain, in creating this kind of really from November to March project that they are being a part of. So Jude Dietz is going to talk a little more.
So I am Jude Dietz. I teach English at Mendon, and I've been teaching 9th grade for 21 years. So I can tell you with absolute certainty that when you say the words research project to 14-year-olds, they're very excited. Needless to say, over the years, we've been trying to do what we can to take that dread out of that for them. It's an overwhelming feeling. You probably remember what it feels like to do research. It can feel daunting and stressful. And what we've experienced over the years is that our students start to feel it as a burden rather than something that could feel applicable and transferable. So as Bethany mentioned, we started to think, how can we make that feel a little bit less daunting and a little more transferable, connecting the dots for them. So we said, okay, we've got to bring in more experts, and luckily our district hired a fabulous replacement for Elizabeth Hollinger, and Brett Daggs came to us more than willing to join in. And we said, okay, we want them to have a legitimate research experience, which begins with a research question. So we set that off by asking our global partners, our Global 9 partners, to give us, the English department, some of the research questions that they would like the students in 9th grade global to tackle. So there was student choice, in other words. They gave us a list of, I believe, 7 research questions. Each of those questions then had a number of topics within them that the students could choose to develop their inquiry. So as we went on to do that, the students needed to get access to excellent, reliable databases to find out a little bit more about their topics, and also learn how to differentiate between a source that's reliable and good and valid and things like fake news, things that we're hearing about now. We needed a lot of partners in this process. This took a tremendous amount of logistical work from people that we might not think about, our paras in our testing center, who agreed to give up their space and work with us 3 periods, 4 periods a day for a week, to open up our lecture hall to create a much wider space so we could bring in up to 60 9th graders at a time and do team teaching with Brett, me, and another 9th grade English teacher, giving kids the same learning experience at the same time in the same way. It involved reaching out to Melissa Julian in our tech services, where we were able to borrow 20 laptop computers from Calkins Road Middle School so that during those periods where we had so many students who needed access, they could actually sit there and learn how to access good, reliable database sources that you'll hear more about from Brett in just a moment. It also included things like our administration supporting us, giving us the time to work on this, giving us more opportunities to work together through our PLCs, with Karl giving us faculty meeting time, giving up department meeting time, getting creative with the fact that time is a constraint. So it's been a little bit of a creative process on all of our parts, but in this very brief amount of time, I hope you'll be able to hear that it's been worthwhile. Brett, I'm going to turn it over to you to explain the basics.
So yes, Brett Daggs, high school librarian at Mendon. I survived my first semester.
He's still standing.
I am still standing. Now this is, I was asked a question several years ago in an interview what my favorite topic or unit was to teach in the high school library, and I didn't hesitate, I said databases. And I think that answer would still apply today. I think these are the most sophisticated resources and tools we have available in a high school library, and with the amount of kids that we have graduating from Pittsford going on to college, it's paramount that they really learn how to utilize these tools well. So I couldn't be more pleased with this immersive experience in 9th grade. And I want to try to differentiate a little bit of what's unique about this project. I've taught databases for years. It's nothing new to teach databases to freshmen. But again, this was a more immersive experience than anything I've ever been associated with. If you add up the time that they start in English, and the time that they end with social studies, that's 3 months. I can't think of another project in high school that has that kind of duration. And the hinge point here is starting with these databases. So I came up with this, it's kind of a corny little document here, but I've never really had the opportunity to do it this way before. And again, the length of time to do it, my colleagues were kind enough to carve out an entire day for me to spend with this, setting the hook, I guess if you will, for these freshmen that is going to exceed this project, and hopefully something I can refer back to for the duration of their high school research, and that is the why for using databases. I think we ended with an agreement here that these students would turn to these resources before they would go to the open web, okay, for some of the reasons highlighted here, and because they had success with them. When I talk about immersive experience, they had, I think, no less than 5 days in the library to find only 3 articles, but again, just within these particular tools. That's a lot of time. Okay, and so what we avoided was that temptation to arrive at the quickest information, the fastest information, but instead finding the best information to answer those research questions. I've begun to look at all of the work that they've done, and I plan to look at each and every citation for the entire freshman class. I'm very pleased with the kind of content that they're surfacing so far, and I think their confidence has grown because of it. Okay, I think they're producing better work. I think they're more engaged in it because of it.
So one of the things that we have noticed over the years when we do have students engaging with research is it's difficult to read. They're not super pumped to read some of the material that they then have to kind of make their own and write about. So one of the strategies that we've taken on in the library and English portion of this that then our social studies colleagues will reinforce so that it's a common experience for students as they walk through this is engaging with difficult texts, how to do that. I won't belabor this for you. I know you have the slides in front of you, but it's basically just a training way of getting kids to do what probably we sometimes do when we read, with all of our little annotations, and we engage with it that way. We get our highlighters out. But what we try to get students to stop doing is painting, where they get out lots of colors and they're streaking their highlighter across the page, but they're not really paying attention to what they're doing. So this process turns them hopefully from passive readers into more engaged readers, because as you see, it's a step-by-step process that eventually gets kids to read and engage with the text multiple times, so that by the end they can explain that information to someone else without looking at it at all. And a very quick anecdote is when our colleague John Yeager, a Global 9 teacher, was telling us in our most recent PLC meeting that he had to actually tell a kid to get back on task with what they were doing that day in Global 9 because he wanted to start explaining about the leader that he learned about during the English portion of the research unit, because he already knew everything there was to know. And Mr. Yeager was saying, no, okay, wait, we're not here yet. We're not there yet, because he owned the material so well from doing that. So that was the success story. The students also have now been trained in a way to organize themselves. We know students struggle with executive functioning, whether they have any kind of official learning disability or not. This is not an easy thing for 14-year-olds to keep up with. You remember note cards. Those weren't fun. We have to come up with ways to keep them organized. So we have one way for every 9th grader to stay very, very organized with this process throughout English, and then they will walk down the hall and do the exact same thing with their sources in social studies. So it's uniform, it's simple, it's clean, it is a single handout, and they walk through this process to kind of keep them organized, learn how to answer research questions, how to paraphrase, summarize, and avoid plagiarism.
If students don't particularly get excited when they hear the term research as freshmen, they get less excited when you talk about citations. That said, okay, there's no escaping it. It's part of writing, part of the process. Modern Language Association is the predominant style, citation style we use at the high school. There is now an 8th edition out, new last spring, so this cohort of freshmen are the first to receive it en masse at the high school. And there's actually a collegial circle of secondary librarians that are working on this topic right now, about halfway through our assignment. And a lot of the work we've done so far has found its way to this, to instruction with the freshmen. I think that's a good thing. I came up with, this is actually a slide from the presentation here, but not to bore you with all the details or get too far into the weeds here, but conceptually what MLA is after is the fact that in the digital realm it's nearly impossible for students, or me frankly, to memorize all the variables that you might have that you'll encounter when you're citing stuff online or in print resources. So they want to get to this idea of containers. That's their word, not mine. We spend a lot of time trying to cement this idea with the students, and that is, no matter the source that you're using, think of it in terms of something that's nested within a larger source. For example, they may use an article from a magazine, and that article is the source that they're citing, but they think of it in terms of something that appeared in a container. Maybe that container was The Economist magazine. Okay, something physical and tactile they could hold in their hands, but to complicate it, maybe that container was then digitized. Okay, and it was available online, or maybe it was put into a database unless you have another container. So we spent a lot of time talking about concept there, and I think that was valuable in a foundation moving forward. I don't expect that we've reached mastery at this point, but at least we have a starting point with MLA 8. And the other thing about citations is, I tell the students often, it's not the hardest thing we'll ever do in high school. Students mess up with citations all the time. It's an issue of repetition. Okay, you don't master what you don't repeat often enough, and I think the value of having this 3-chord rope, 3 teachers looking at it, is probably the middle chord here. I can look at these citations. I've done it before. I've graded citations, but I've never done it quite like this before. Because of the duration of this assignment, I've pledged to look at each and every student's citation. So you're talking about 250 students that are going to produce no less than 5 citations when all is said and done. So that's 1,000 things that I'm going to look at, but I think it's absolutely imperative at this level that these freshmen have that kind of touch point. okay, and repetition. There's an online environment where they submit that stuff and I can look at it and it's interactive and they can respond to me as well. So that, I think, is what sets this apart. It makes it a little bit different than any experience I've had before working with Citations.
And last, the finished product, I should say part one. The students have finished the annotated bibliography portion of this in English. They have just submitted them to us, and we will be furiously grading those this week before grades are due. And it's kind of exciting to see such a professional look coming from the students. They definitely have acquired a strong sense of how to do MLA 8th edition, citations, summary, and evaluations. They'll take their new understandings and apply those in social studies starting next week. And then they will actually learn some more research skills with websites and print materials and actually write the paper in social studies. So that's how it all comes together. Thank you. I'll turn it over to you.
Now, I'm going to ask that you bear with us a bit. You've just heard from the minority party, but the majority party is our 1,000 students, and so we'd like to have a few of our students come up and share a little something more. Come on up, guys. And our AV tech to share a little bit more about a tremendous example of the kind of authentic, real learning that also happens outside of the classroom. Gentlemen?
Hi, I'm Megan Beck. I'm the audiovisual tech at Mendon High School, and I also have the privilege of being the Morning Madness Club advisor. The club was formed in 2012, and each year we've kind of built upon the program that we create each week. And since clubs are student activities and student run, I'll let the gentleman take it away.
My name is Caleb Holfith, and I'm the production manager of Morning Show. And one thing that I feel this club gave me that really nothing else like a club can give me is the fact that I get to work with people I'm really close with in order to produce a show that airs every Friday that when I pass people in the hall, they say, great show, they smile and they laugh. And I think that to me is just one of the best parts of high school, not the schoolwork, of course, but the people and interacting with them, and this is just a way I can meet new people and have so much fun.
Hi, I'm Cameron Yada. I head the segments of Morning Madness. I am the lead production of Viking Sports News, also known as VSN. What Morning Madness has taught me is I've become much better with my public speaking, as well as I've been able to interact with others around our school, people who I wouldn't usually interact with, and that's also kept me in line of recognizing special events that I wouldn't usually recognize as well. And it's just been extremely helpful and been a great extracurricular activity for me, and one that I wouldn't trade for the world.
To show you a little bit more about Morning Show, we produced a video that we would like to show you.
Good evening and welcome to this special edition of Morning Madness. I'm Manvi.
And I'm Bella.
Morning Madness is Mendon's weekly video broadcast of morning announcements airing every Friday.
On this show this evening, we have highlights from past episodes and speak with both current and former members of the Morning Madness Club.
There is so much more to the morning show than what is seen on screen each week. The members of the club create graphics, develop scripts, use teleprompters, soundboards, and video mixers. Each week, we like to create 1 or 2 video segments. Here are some highlights of past segments.
This election has had many ups and downs and has continued to be very close. So you seniors who are 18 and all you teachers, make sure to get out there and vote.
Happy Friday, Mendon. I'm here to show you the forecast for this upcoming winter break. Check this out. Now let's go to Aaron for Viking Music and Arts update on the recent art show.
So if you can't tell by my surroundings right now, we're here at the Mendon Art Show.
Hi, I'm Cameron Young, and welcome to this week's edition of Viking Sports News. Today I'm joined by Mendon volleyball player Hannah Trumbull.
I'm here walking on the new Mendon turf, the first year that it has been implemented to Mendon High.
As you may notice, we have floor here, but no floor here. Now that's what I'm here to investigate. Welcome to Mendon Mysteries, Article 3. Where's the floor?
Everyone wonders, who's better, Sutherland or Mendon? Well, this morning, I think it's going to be pretty clear who's gonna win this spirit battle.
Welcome to Friday Morning Live!
What's it like doing this to schools every Friday morning?
This is so much fun, and honestly, you guys you're number 2, but you're definitely the craziest that we've had so far.
The segments are a way to help bring the Mendon community together and highlight special events.
Now let's go to a Mendon alum and former Morning Madness production manager, Josh, and hear him talk about his experience as a member of the club.
Morning show affected me as a high school student by just giving me a lot more responsibility than I think most students would have. Being the production manager of the morning show club, that comes with like a lot of tasks to do. From an organizational leadership sense, it really helps with that. It really provided me with a lot of good experience that I couldn't get anywhere else. And I know a lot of school clubs, there's the advisors, and the advisors like really kind of do a lot of the work and do a lot of the organization, as opposed to really like sitting back and advising. With morning show, it was fantastic because the student run aspect was so strong, in the relationship between like NISBEC, the advisor, and like the student organizers was like very good and very beneficial to the students because it provided them with a lot of opportunities to organize things themselves and take on responsibility themselves. How did morning show affect my college decision and what I want to do in the future? It really shaped it. I'm going into broadcasting, and that's like the career that I want to go into, and it really started with morning show. That's helped me in college, just being aware and just of not only what I want to do, but I also have a lot of experience like using cameras, shooting film, interviewing people, using like different types of technology, video editing. That's a big thing. I've already done a lot of video editing in college for our college TV station at SUNY Oswego, where I go to college now. So it's really helped prepare me in that sense, because a lot of students come in that say like, oh, hey, I want to do broadcasting, but they've never really had any taste of it.
Thanks, Josh. It's great to know members of our club are doing well in college.
Lastly, we wanted to share how our current members feel about their experience in the club. Let's take a look.
This club has taught me to manage my time well, and it also taught me valuable leadership skills because every week you're putting out a show, so you have to be on top of your game.
A lot about time management and also the different softwares with teleprompting and also video editing. So I really like that I'm able to use these softwares.
Different ways of being a leader, and it's not just necessarily telling people what to do and when, but it's also helping them how to do it and maybe giving them ideas that they don't think of and having them give you ideas that you don't think of.
My favorite thing about the club is probably meeting all the people and forming sort of a little group that you're all pretty close with.
My favorite thing about the club has to be the people, just because I see them every week and they're super positive and encouraging, and even if something's not working out, everybody's there to support you.
It just really changed my opinion on morning announcements, and it really like showed me how people do appreciate some of the small things that you do, because there's people who I never even met before, never even spoken to, and they just said, hey, you're the person off the weather show. And I guess it just gives me a great feeling, and I think that just feeling the love and support just makes it all worthwhile.
That is all we have for you this evening. We hope you enjoyed this special edition of Morning Madness. Good night.
And that concludes our presentation.